Hey, we're gathered here today because you're either a partner who has received a RCPP renewal of a 2014 Farm Bill project renewing into a 2018 Farm Bill project, or a state coordinator assisting partners with moving into the new programmatic agreement. So today we're going to talk about what that program agreement structure is like, and the negotiation process, and a project implementation timeline and overview, as well as we'll go into describing some of the partnership agreements and associated documents, and we'll wrap it up with a question and answer period. So we're going from Farm Bill 2014 RCCP project. And we're going to maintain the existing project scope. Some of the projects may have been selected with expanded geography or additional project activities. The goal is going to need to address the same resource concerns and maintain the same lead partner. What's new with the renewal under the Farm Bill 2018 program rules and policies are that we're going to manage the agreements differently. So instead of having an agreement managed through the Grants and Agreement Division, we're going to have a partnership project agreement, which implements standalone contracts with producers, much like our standard EQIP contracts, but they're RCPP funded, and they're RCPP land management, rental, or easement contracts. So the funding approach will roughly work the same way. RCPP funding will be 70% for financial assistance toward implementing conservation projects on the ground using producer RCPP contracts for land management, rental, and easements, as well as supplemental agreements for, in some cases, where the partner will be implementing the practices to benefit the eligible producers. The technical assistance will be about 30% of the total project cost. 23% of that technical assistance will be oriented toward providing direct assistance to program applicants and contract participants. And of that 23%, 5% is to cover inherent government activities that the NRCS needs to do, as well as managing the agreement. The other 18% of technical assistance could be negotiated into supplemental agreements to pay the partner or partner's contractor to provide the direct technical assistance to a program participant. And then 7% of the technical assistance money is available for the partner to manage project, do outreach and education, and outcome monitoring. So the technical assistance deliverables will be requested through the negotiation of the partnership, the programmatic partnership agreement, or PPA. That's what we'll be calling the programmatic partnership agreement for a shorthand as we move through this orientation. So up to 7% of the technical assistance funds can be utilized by the partner for what we call TAE, or Technical Assistance Enhancement. And again, that's the project management, producer outreach, and outcome monitoring. The other 23% will automatically default to NRCS for the project management and conservation implementation. And during the PPA negotiation process, up to about 18% of that technical assistance money can be put in aside for partners to use supplemental agreements based on their capacity and capability to provide direct technical assistance to producers with developing conservation plans, designing practices, and assisting with the checkout implementation. The RCPP Classic project structure built around a programmatic partnership agreement. In that partnership agreement, we'll spell out what kind of vehicle will be used to get conservation on the ground. Will it be land management, land rental contracts with producers, or U.S. held easements or entity held easements, or watershed public works type of work? The NRCS technical assistance is going to be used by NRCS to manage this agreement and to carry out the typical NRCS functions that cannot be delegated. So what is a supplemental agreement? This is it's sort of a hybrid. It's like a cooperative agreement and a contract. It's a new NRCS funding vehicle that came about in the 2018 Farm Bill. And we use it in RCPP Classic to obligate technical assistance funds to partners. So the PPA, or the Programmatic Partnership Agreement, creates the outline, the division of labor, what's NRCS going to do to deliver the project, and what's the partner going to do to deliver the project. And the supplemental agreement will obligate the PA funds for either enhancement work done by the partner or technical assistance implementation work to be done by the partner. It provides flexibility to obligate funding as needs are recognized as the project is implemented. And it requires that NRCS and the partners have a mutual understanding of a cost basis of the costs and the type of documentation that will be used for reimbursement. So let the negotiations begin. The RCPP negotiation and agreement process works like this. The RCPP awards, when announced, are tentative and subject to finalization through negotiation. The negotiations can impact project funding, FATA details, activity implementation details, eligible partner contributions, and initial implementation details. Lead partners can request adjusted gross income waivers for the entire project. These are, can be requested through the development of the partnership program, Programmatic Partnership Agreement, or PPA. And the FATA ratio can be requested. A waiver for that can be requested if there's maybe less need for direct technical assistance and a desire to put more in financial assistance into the program. That can be proposed in the Programmatic Partnership Agreement. And other waivers of policy. So some of the projects in their proposals had talked about needing adjustments of terms, and that's what would be handled through a policy waiver. So anything that is a policy and not a statute is something that can be negotiated and then requested. So the negotiations for the renewals cannot change the lead partner or the geographic boundary or any of the conservation benefits. So we're carrying out the same project, but possibly expanding the boundaries or adding additional activities to address the same conservation benefits. The timeline for project implementation is now. Begin the negotiations with your lead state RCPP coordinator. Partner contribution expenditures are creditable as of would be not October 25th. That's left over, but the date that you were notified that your project was selected for renewal, you can start counting contributions. Ultimately, whether they're eligible or not will be uh, negotiated and entered into the PPA. So talk to your coordinator about what kinds of contributions you may be wanting to credit now toward the project to make sure that they are going to be eligible for inclusion in the PPA. The PPAs can be signed and executed as soon as they're approved by NRCS, and renewal PPAs must be executed prior to the expiration of the original project agreement. Supplemental agreements are available as soon as the PPAs are executed. So what's in a programmatic partnership agreement? There's the agreement itself, the exhibits, and the attachments. The template provided by the National RCPP staff establishes a project budget but does not obligate funding. The PPA establishes a framework for the collaborative RCPP project. Document describes responsibilities for NRCS and for the lead partner, and it will include a table of deliverables as an attachment. Project duration, modification, termination, all spelled out in the terms and conditions, and the project map, and will be done in collaboration with the state coordinator. And then, of course, there's always lots of legal language in the agreement itself. PPA exhibits include land management, which describes the types of land management activities that will be focused on using financial assistance and technical assistance implementation funding. This is where the partner would describe their qualifications and skills and toward providing conservation planning or implementation or design assistance to producers who are participating in the program, where the land rental activities would be used or how they would be used. The U.S. held easements and the entity held easement exhibits describe the benefits that are going to be sought for using the easements and a whole lot of other technical information. And then our watershed and public works attachment would get into describing the level of planning that has occurred and been approved, and the details of a watershed public works type of project. And then, of course, the enhancement technical assistance exhibit would lay out what kinds of outreach they expect to do, what kind of project management activities will be carried out by the partner, and what type of outcome monitoring activities are going to be carried out in the project. So each of these exhibits are available, and they all depend on what the project was selected to do. So your project will use one, maybe two exhibits, sometimes three, depending on the complexity of the project that was renewed. The PPA exhibits, such as the land management or the TAI, technical assistance implementation, will highlight the resource concerns, how historically underserved producers will be prioritized and involved in the project, land use types. Will the partner be bundling applications for contract? Are there priority conservation practices that this project is going to focus on? Will there be a need to negotiate payment rates that are different than the established RCPP payment rates? And will the adjusted gross income applicability waiver be requested for the project area? Then if there's going to be conservation innovations that the partners wants to integrate into the project, they would be described in the land management document, what those innovations are and how they'll work. And then how the partner will be involved in implementing technical assistance and to what level. Land management and rental activities. The partner will work with state coordinators on developing or describing the sign up schedule, what kind of ranking tools and partner bundling approaches will occur. And for most projects, all land management rental obligations will occur through producer contracts between NRCS and the producer. There is an obligation to obligate through supplemental agreements with a partner. And those an example of where we would obligate financial assistance through supplemental agreement with a partner is where a partner is implementing work on eligible land benefiting eligible producers versus NRCS contracting with the individual producers. Continuing on with the entity held easement exhibit. This exhibit would again identify the resource concerns, discuss how historically underserved producers will be prioritized within the project area, and what type of opportunities may be offered. We'll describe the characteristics of eligible entities for the entity held for the easement, and discuss the types of easements, such as habitat, working lands, etc. And we'll identify if there are prioritized parcels identified with benefits and costs already worked out, or if there will be partner bundling of parcels that fit a particular need for a project area, or whether or not any of the projects will be part of a buy, protect, sell endeavor. And then again, what this exhibit will be where the partner would request adjusted gross income applicability waiver for the project area if there's a need for that. And again, much like the land management and rental exhibit, discuss any innovations that the partner is going to bring into this process, and describe how implementation technical assistance will be carried out for the project. Due diligence funding, surveys, title work, etc. Work with your state coordinator to determine how due diligence activities will be contracted. NRCS contracts with third parties or supplemental agreements with partners. Entity held RCPP funding can only be used for NRCS responsibilities. TA for conservation planning, financial assistance for appraisal reviews, and hazardous materials record searches are what that covers. Acquisition funding will be coordinated with the state coordinators on signups, ranking tool development, etc. Entity held funding obligations to partners will be done through supplemental agreements, and U.S. held easement funding will be obligated by NRCS directly to the landowner through producer contracts. When requesting AGI applicability waivers, partners may request to waive the applicability for an activity type. So this would apply to all producer contracts for that activity type. Producers would not need to submit forms or to obtain an AGI determination. This must be requested as part of the PPA negotiation and cannot be requested as an amendment. If not, individual producers may request to waive an AGI limit for a specific contract, and that will apply only to a single specific contract with a producer and will require justification on how the waiver will protect environmentally sensitive land of special significance. Technical assistance. Enhancement technical assistance, or TAE, needs often are known at the project outset, such as outcome monitoring activities, like measuring the benchmarks up front, producer outreach, and project management. It may make sense to obligate most or all of the enhancement TA through a supplemental agreement at the beginning of the project. And most implementation TA needs to be, well, the needs may be unknown up front. And, as signups occur and you get an idea for the producer demand for conservation planning, design, so on and so forth, you can always add the TAI implementation as those needs are known. So it could be obligated in the first year or second year, or a little bit throughout the first few years of the project as the actual demand and needs are known. PPA confidentiality attachment. This document describes the partner responsibilities related to privacy of producer landowner information. It also describes the information sharing between the lead partner and NRCS. And it includes a Section 1619 cooperative agreement to be signed by the lead partner. This also includes an exception information for state agency lead partners unable to sign a Section 1619 cooperator agreement. Moving into the outcomes, what is an environmental outcome? Inputs include funding, technical assistance, and customer service skills. Activities include conservation planning and outreach. Outputs are equal contracts and practices. The outcomes are the environmental, economic, and social benefits achieved through the project. So listing the PPA outcomes attachment lists NRCS and lead partner responsibilities, provides a narrative of data collection and outcomes reporting, how the baseline data is going to be captured, what kind of monitoring or modeling will occur, will it be best scientific estimates, support for outcome approach, will there be other entities bringing their technical expertise to bear? Will there be economic and social outcomes included in the approach to monitoring? So annual timelines and milestones for the outcomes monitoring. Those are all items that will be put together in the outcomes attachment. A note here is that outcomes must be reported for the totality of the project activities, those funded both by NRCS and partner contributions. And the programmatic partnership agreement reporting is done annually. There's an annual progress and financial report, and then the final report and fact sheet are required at the end of the year. So annually, things like progress on completing deliverables, including delivering of contributions, basic project information, such as number of producers engaged, their demographics, so on, and the progress out in reporting the outcomes. NRCS customer service. State coordinator is your first line communicator. flexible project management with the PPA and the supplemental agreement makes for faster reimbursements, flexible supplemental agreement obligations, and flexible agreement management, as well as streamlined reporting. NRCS reporting to lead partners. Every 6 months, a report describing the status of each pending and obligated producer contract will be provided, and an annual report describing NRCS's use of project technical assistance funding. So that it wraps up the overview of what will ensue as you negotiate the programmatic partnership agreement and supplemental agreements for your renewal of your existing RCPP project. And devote the rest of the time here today to answering questions and providing clarification to anything that we went over. So we'll open it up to verbal questions by raising a hand and using the reactions tool from the upper corner, or you can feel free to type in your questions into the chat.
Eric,
Josh,
would you like me to? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I see Josh has a written question here. It sounds like the reporting standard will be once per year. Our current RCPP that's being renewed includes a twice per year report. That is correct. It is just one annual report now.
Can add to that one just a little bit while folks think about whether or not they have any more questions. The reporting is a little bit more streamlined than it was in RCPP 14 in that it all happens within the portal. So there's not, as there was in the cooperative agreement-based projects in 14, a separate GAD type requirement. It's only the RCPP requirement. So it's a little bit streamlined.
Diane asks, lead partner did not ask for TA because the original didn't have that option. Can the new lead partner obtain TAE dollars?
Do you want to take that one, Eric? Do you want me to take a stab?
Yeah. I think we can negotiate that. We would need to go back and take a look at the budget and see how that could work. Seth, do you have any?
Yeah, no, I'll just expand a little bit
yeah.
from where you are, Eric. That's exactly correct. If the lead state supports the partner's ask for TAE, and the lead state, in consultation with any partner states, determines that TAI, as allocated to the project, is in excess of the project needs, then we can convert some of the TAI to TAE for partner use. Alternatively, if there's no need for that TAE and the TAI is high, you would request a TA to FA waiver. So those are the two ways to change the amount. No waivers needed if you're changing TA within TA. The portal rules and the 7% cap will basically keep you where you need to be. But if you want to switch TA to FA, that's when you would need the waiver request. And then Josh had a follow-up question, it looks like, on his template. Basically, Josh, the reporting is now a % complete of the scheduled contribution deliverables. So it's a really simple annual report. It's not like a written document so much anymore. So that should help. And it looks like Mike just clicked off, so I'll let him add in.
Yeah, I'll add, talk to your coordinator about getting you a copy of the exhibit to our National Instruction Part 322. That has an outline of some of the narrative questions that are there, in addition to what Seth just said as far as the percentage of the deliverables. And there's a little bit of guidance in there as to what's expected for those responses.
What was that national instruction again, Mike? I did not get it.
322.
Thank you.
Justin has his hand up. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I was wondering if Seth or Mike or even you, Eric, could give some more clarity and then some examples or reference some national guidance on how we're going to take some of these cooperative agreements that had kind of packaged or deliverable bundles. An example would be the partner provided in RCS with X amount of completed plans, and now we need to separate those out to the TAI planning steps and deliverables. Does that make any sense?
I think so,
Yeah.
Justin.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Eric. If you want to take a stab, that's fine, man. Or if you want me to.
I would look at, so you're actually going to look at, you develop your partnership program, your programmatic partnership agreement first, and just in general, identify that the partner is going to do conservation planning and that they have, their qualifications for up to what they can do in the conservation planning process. Could be all of it, could be a portion. And you're going to do that in the land management exhibit for the programmatic partnership agreement. So I would look at a National Instruction 440 316. It'll kind of go over some more details about how you would categorize the different activities.
I think you're hitting on a real important point there, Justin, which is there is a very different NRCS side expectation for how the TAI will occur. And it's more regulated in RCPP 18 than it was in RCPP 14. So your RCPP 14 example where you talked about the partners providing a full planning package, blah, 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 potentially at a fixed price, blah, blah, blah. Neither of those things are going to happen anymore. In RCPP 18, we're going to be looking really only at the pre-application activity as being independent of a program/producer contract. Before we put a partner under contract to do any planning, design, installation, checkout, etc., the new activity codes, we would want that program contract in place, and we'd want to know that there's actually a need for it. Because what we're trying to avoid is something that was pretty common in RCPP 14, the stockpiling of plans, the stockpiling of designs. So you're basically moving from a partner/producer-led planning design effort to an NRCS contract-driven planning effort. And if you want to talk that over in your project construct, maybe give me a call.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Questions going once, twice?
I guess I have one other question. In the notice, it referenced a date in June, I think June 6th, that we needed to have these PPAs executed by. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the drop dead deadline, but
Okay,
basically you need to get them in place before the actual existing
Right.
agreement expires.
right. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
I understood that correctly.
Any other questions? We are here for you. All right, going once, going twice. We will adjourn the meeting and we'll make this recording available on our SharePoint for the coordinators to share if need be. Thank you all for your time and attention, and apologize for the late start.